Hey, are you tired of trying to find people to sell final expense insurance to, prospecting and trying to dig through relationships and networking and wasting a lot of time just to get to the stage of actually talking to someone who potentially would be interested in final expense insurance? Well, today I'm going to introduce you to selling final expense insurance with aged leads and the concept of aged leads and how powerful this can be to get you out of the business of prospecting and into the business of selling. Hi, my name is Bill Rice on behalf of Age Lead Store. Today, I want to break down for you how to actually sell final expense insurance using age leads and how this can really ramp up your sales process and ultimately your pipeline and your closed deals and policies. So first and foremost, let's just talk a little bit real quickly. There's lots of other videos that you'll see and are linked down below that are about what age leads are, but I think it's really important to understand what age leads are. So when I say get out of the business of prospecting and get in the business of sales, age leads is a great way to do that because one, super affordable. These age leads are anywhere from $1 to $2 a piece, and so they're super cheap, a lot cheaper than real-time internet leads. The other thing to look for too is, yes, you can buy age leads, and there's some advantages to that because those are internet leads that have shown some real-time intent at some point, and then for a variety of reasons, they've kind of been ignored for 30, 60, 90 days, and so you've got an opportunity to kind of sell to them with little or no competition and potentially also help the consumer get some comparables that they weren't able to get originally when they inquired. But you can also find these kind of leads probably sitting around your insurance agency or in your own CRM, depending on how you're set up or how long you've been in the business, because there are a variety of leads that you got through a lot of different techniques, maybe referral, maybe network, maybe you've actually bought some real-time leads. And by dispositioning those, you've essentially sort of tucked them away in the trash bin and you haven't talked to them in 30, 60, 90, maybe even longer. So there are age leads probably sitting in your CRM that you can use these same techniques with in order to bump up the volume of sales activity and ultimately the number of final expense insurance policies that you're selling. So look for age leads, and if you don't have age leads or you're just getting started, definitely encourage you to check out ageleadstore.com where you can buy those in a very affordable way. You can get hundreds of them for very cheap, right? A couple dollars a piece. So having said that, once you have aged data, once you have some age leads, consumers that have kind of been left alone, there are a couple keys to making that productive, particularly for final expense insurance. So one of the things to know, and you if you've been selling for a period of time for final expense insurance, there are a couple different scenarios that make age leads really productive, right? A lot of times, the folks that are in this demographic that are interested in final expense insurance are maybe anxious or reticent about making a decision. They typically are on a fixed income, and therefore their budget's constrained. So they're always looking for, the best opportunity or the most affordable solution. They oftentimes have not necessarily been presented a full range of options, and maybe they didn't qualify before. So just the demographic, the type of folks that need to be served by final expense insurance sort of lends them to potentially be underserved, right? And so that's an excellent opportunity with age leads. So knowing that, you need to create a sales process specifically for age leads, because these are folks that don't have like right now intent. You are reaching out. They've been ignored. They've probably been underserved, and so there's a couple of key points to sort of working this type of lead versus maybe some others that you're working or a referral or something like that, right? One, you want to be persistent. So you want to craft a sales process. You probably want to use a little automation, some drip emails and stuff like that, maybe even some automated text, and definitely want to set up some automation to help remind you to reach out and leave voicemails and follow-up phone calls and those sorts of things, because it's going to be important to be persistent on these, because they're not necessarily expecting your call, right? They didn't just now fill out that form or ask for information, right? It's been a little while, and so they're not necessarily expecting it. So this in some senses is a cold call, right? So you want a script, you want to craft for cold calling, but you also want to have the persistence to follow up with those over a long period of time, essentially infinitely, right? So we want to put those things in place. I always emphasize that we should be persistent, but we want to be sort of politely persistent, right? We want to be empathetically persistent. And so we want to create that persistence in a way that it's not like a lot of times there's a lot of pressure on a real-time lead to get it closed, right? So you'll call like multiple times a day. You don't need to do that with age leads. So one of the values presented by age leads is because you can have a volume, you can get out of that mindset of scarcity, because you're going to have a lot of leads and you're going to get into a mindset of abundance. And so you're going to take your time, right, on these leads. So you're going to reach out the first day and you're going to kind of present that value proposition. You're going to say, hey, we haven't talked in a few months, or you inquired on our website, but it's been a while since we connected, or we weren't able to connect for whatever reason. So one, you want to make that sort of empathetic initial outreach, letting them know that, hey, you've got something for them, but you're not going to be a pest, right? So you're going to do that sort of day zero. Then I suggest 2 or 3 days later, you follow up. Again, you can automate with email. It's just to follow up on that. And then say like 10 days out, you kind of do that third email or that third follow-up. And I tend to like this to be sort of a breakup, or I like to call it take away the deal sort of email that says, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while, and so sounds like this is probably not a priority right now, or maybe you're not thinking about it, but I'd love to follow up with you or answer any questions if you have them in the future. And so often that's the highest response rate of all of the emails, right? Because you've kind of taken away the deal. There is a chance that they're kind of overwhelmed, or they're anxious or nervous, or maybe they're just busy. And so I get most of my responses on that third email where they're actually saying, hey, that is something I want to do. I don't want them to necessarily leave. I do want to have that discussion. And so a lot of times they'll say, no, I want to have the discussion, but right now is not a good time, or, let's go ahead and schedule something, whatever. So a lot of times you'll get a nice reply on that third email. The second thing you want to do is you want to personalize your approach, right? And so whatever the context of those leads, whether you buy them or they come out of your CRM, look for something that you can do to personalize. And when I say personalize, it can be just as simple as just referencing when they actually inquired on an age lead. You'll have that data. Hey, a couple months ago, you filled out a form on the website, looked like you were looking for some information on final expense insurance, or paying for your final burial expenses or something like that. Also, you will have oftentimes a beneficiary. And so that's a great way to personalize. Hey, it looks like, a couple months ago you inquired, you were looking into some final expense. It looks like that potentially you were looking to set up little Johnny with one, cover your final expenses, but also maybe give Johnny a little bit at the end. And we know life insurance can be really expensive, so a final expense can be maybe a good alternative to one, take care of your final expenses, but also give Johnny a little boost. And so there are some ways to personalize like that. So look at the data, segment the data. Reference the best way to personalize always, and the easiest, is just to reference like where you got their data and why you're calling them, right? So those two pieces is always represented in the lead, and so that's a great way to personalize. If you have some additional information like beneficiaries and stuff like that, that's a great way to personalize as well. um, offer some sort of incentive, and this can mean a variety of different things, but you're trying to create some sense of urgency. Hey, we've got more carriers. I have more carriers than maybe you looked at before, so we may have a broader range of options. Maybe there's some discounting windows and those sorts of things, but try to offer something that creates some urgency or some differentiating to sort of reach back out and respond to you specifically. So encourage to sort of think about what that hook is to get them interested or to differentiate you from what they've experienced in the past. And some of that could be the fourth point, which is to educate, right? You might offer in your voicemails, in your emails, just a tiny bit more education, right? Explaining what final expense is, how it can be used, that it can be used, to cover burial expenses and final expenses, but it also could be maybe an affordable option to actually leave a little extra to the beneficiaries that you're thinking about, right? That's going to be the main hook for them, right? They're generally in this context, these folks don't have the ability to save and generate, to accumulate significant wealth. They may not be able to pay the premiums on a term or a whole life insurance policy, but maybe they can pay to allow for just a little something, right? In the context of final expense. So it can be an affordable option. And so just educating them through that process can be super valuable. And the fact that you are kind of doing that polite persistence thing, you can kind of use that drip campaign to slowly educate them as to why this might be a good option. So encouraging you to do that. And then kind of the final thing is as you're kind of building this approach out, your final expense insurance sales plan using age lead, it's really important to script this process. And there's two kinds of scripts that I think are important. One is just the sales script itself. And don't forget voicemails in here, because most of your outreach, your cold calling, is going to be left as voicemails, right? So highly script that, practice it. The fact that you have a lot of age leads is going to allow you to practice it over and over again and get better at it. But you want to start with a script. You want to start by writing that down so that you do have a set, tight message that you're delivering, because oftentimes it's going to be on a voicemail. But you also want to write a script in the eventuality that somebody answers, right? And you don't want to be surprised by that. You want to know exactly where you're going to go if somebody live gets on that phone. As unexpected and infrequent as that is these days, you definitely want to be prepared for that. You also want to write a script for the actual presentation, right? How you're going to take that person through the presentation of final expense, what it offers, the different options they might have, how it works, how easy it is, taking the payment, and taking that kind of an initial premium or method of payment. All those things you want to script out so that it's clean, it's professional, and you appear and feel polished and have confidence, which is going to give that consumer confidence in what you're doing there as well. And then the final script is just literally script out the sales process, the different steps in the sales process, and make sure that you have at least email drip in that process. So every stage you're moving through and entering them into a drip campaign or an email sequence that's keeping engaged with them, even though you're maybe working other presentations, right? Because as you get volume, you're going to need that automation to work for you in parallel to what you're doing on live sales calls, right? So ultimately, you want to get to a point where you're spending all your time doing presentation, your automation is actually nurturing these leads into appointments, right? And so it's important to script all that out and to write that out, and then be able to introduce email reminders for phone calls and stuff like that, and then possibly even introducing text messages into that, which is a really effective way, because that's the way most consumers want to communicate anyway, is through text messages. So hopefully that helps you get familiar with age leads in the context of selling final expense insurance, but also starting to think through the process of selling to aged leads, which is going to help all of your sales processes and your sales techniques in selling final expense insurance. You're just going to get better and better by working on these things and practicing at scale, the scale that you can achieve with aged leads. So I encourage you to check out agedleadstore.com, where you can sort, filter, you can look for leads in real time, and you can grab those, pay for them, super affordable, and download them literally 24/7. Get yourself a batch of leads and get out of the business of prospecting and into the business of sales. So encourage you to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get all of these training videos, and we'll see you on the next one.